Hello and welcome. How is everyone? Campbell here, back with Lorenzo, and
Uh,
we are going to have a chat about conspiracy theory trauma.
Oh my goodness,
So,
I'm
so
ready.
what is conspiracy theory trauma? Well, you're ready? All right, Lorenzo's ready. We've got a bit of a lag going here, I think, but conspiracy theory trauma. Um, Basically, we're all traumatized, from spending all these years going down dark rabbit holes and basically learning that the whole system, the whole control structure of where we live is pretty evil and bad and spend their time, making us unhealthy and robbing from us and living off us, parasiting off. And so it makes it, hard when that's all you've sort of seen of society to see the good, if there's any good happening. And of course, I believe that there's, the energy is changing to a positive charge and that things are going to get better. Um, and I've just found it interesting that there's a lot of people who, even when good things are happening, don't seem to be able to see them because, they're traumatized, right, from all this stuff. Will it ever change? Can we ever trust these people? So, yeah, we're going to have a bit of a chat about that. So, how you going, Lorenzo from
Good.
Canada? Welcome.
I am. Welcome, welcome. I'm from Canada. I'm in my childhood bedroom right now. I just dug up a poster from behind that I haven't seen. The Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse. It's something I had in an old manga comic store when I was 18, 19, which is interesting. It's been sitting in my parents' basement for 40 years. And it's very related to what we're doing here right now, in that, the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse are related to conspiracy theory trauma. What's going on and what is let's say being set free into the world to steal our awareness, our consciousness. I don't generally watch the news, but being here, my father seems to have the news on very loud all the time. He seems to love CNN for some strange bizarre reason. And I'm watching it, and all they're doing is for lack of a better way to put it, is vomit garbage out, day in and day out, which has nothing really to do with anything. The viral shenanigans, the anniversary a few days ago, how bad Trump is, how horrible this is, the tariffs they're fighting, and all this other stuff. And really, all it's trying to do is induce stress into people and stress trauma. The con and conspiracy, so to trick you into giving up, as Campbell said, your attention and your energy and the fluidity of the choices you make. And they don't have to be right or wrong or anything of that nature. All they have to do is distract you until you're dead, and then, well, the end result is you're dead. And the reason Campbell and I are talking about conspiracy theory trauma quite to the point, is that it's something that is real, but isn't something that you have to feel, beyond what you need to make for yourself real, and how you can create your life in the way you would like to see it exist.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I believe that we create reality, right? It's our thoughts that create the experience we go into. It's the thoughts in our subconscious mind that keep going round and round, right? Often hidden, but this is the thing, that there's a lot of distraction. There's a lot of crap out there vying for our attention, and the way I see it is that that's the trick, of course, right? Like there's a reason they want our attention, and out there, it's so that we don't give it to ourselves, right? And we don't go inside and we don't decide what we want to give attention to, whatever that is. And that's why a lot of people get stuck in jobs, right? And they just go and do the same thing over and over, day after day, for 40 years, because they don't have time to think their own thoughts, and so they don't have time to pursue their own dreams because they don't know what their dreams are. And so what happened is, what sparked this sort of idea in me was Kelly, right? You all know Kelly. She posted for her work something with a picture of Trump on it, and oh my God, like the kickback, it just from the picture was just insane. But the crazy thing was, she was saying that, oh, look, Trump's looking at banning glyphosate, which is a good thing, clearly, right? We don't want that in our food and on our crops, but no one could get past this picture of Trump. And so I just sort of started thinking, well, is it because we can't even see the good anymore? Like, it doesn't matter who's doing it. And of course, we have to see all this stuff come to fruition. And I'm not saying that Trump's the answer. He's, definitely part of the show. But if people are doing good things and it's going to help us, then we should support that, right? No matter who it is, really. We just want the results. So, like, how are you going, guys? Years and years down the rabbit hole, we get taught all this stuff, right? Everything's a scam. The legal system, the birth certificate, the money, the tax, the government, food, water, blah, 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 blah. But are we able to rise above that and start to get our own visions back? And much less, attention given to the outside world and all this stuff. But it's still being able to recognize that, you know, people who we don't like can do good things and people who we do like can do bad things. And it just is. We need to treat things as they are rather than saying this person's bad, so therefore everything that comes from them is bad. I think that's
Yeah.
a mistake.
Yeah, and really, the bottom line is it makes no difference to you in your life. I mean, people are going to say it makes a difference to the money, and it makes a difference to the rules, and it makes a difference, to what they're allowed to do and not allowed to do. But, for me, I've noticed, I've been watching the same news for 40, 50 years, and they're talking about the exact same things they've always been talking about: lowering taxes, helping the economy, bringing more jobs, making life better, healing your family. Like it's been the same bullshit for the last, I'm 61 now, and it's been the same bullshit since I've been 8. So, I'm using a bit of a discernment and intelligence, knowing they're still talking about the same crap. And Campbell's mentioned this many times, is, to watch the actions and not the words. So even if Trump is good or bad, or Elon Musk is running the government, which is really weird. I've heard them say in Trump and Elon Musk running the government, like suddenly, some strange guy who's got the name of a robot alien from Mars, or whatever, is somehow in the government. I mean, it's obvious misdirection. It's obvious BS. At the very minimum, most of us could agree it's obviously evil. And, what do you do with the evil? I would say, it's up to each and every one of us to not listen if we decide not to, and to not take it in as we decide not to. That's how trauma is, right? You let it in, or you have to let it out. The reason I found this picture, the four horsemen of the apocalypse, like I'm seeing outside from my life, there's a pattern and a flow and a direction that has nothing to do with anything on a screen. It has nothing to do with anyone, nothing to do with anyone, nothing to do with Campbell, my wife, my friends, my parents. My flow in life has only to do with me and my choices and where I'm going and what I'm doing. I mean, I've given up everything, as we've seen or said in other, videos, to be here, which has not been easy. It's been, in some ways, a nightmare for a couple of weeks. On the other hand, I'm digging up gold, I'm digging up treasures, I'm digging up what I need to know about myself. And I think that's the major trick from the conspiracy theory traumas, is they're always saying, look out here, 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 your answers and all the other, whatever you need and all the bullshit is out here. But the answer, of course, is in here. Because if you watch all the movies, all the TV, most of the podcasts, everything on the news, no one's ever telling you to look at yourself, to study yourself, to understand your choices, to understand your life. As Campbell has said over and over, and I couldn't agree more, how to see it's all your fault and how you can create the kind of life you wish to make real. And that is, in my opinion, why they have all this conspiracy theory trauma, is they're just simply trying to distract you out of taking a good close look at your life till you go, oh, it's just so stressful, I just need a beer, or I just need to go have something to eat and forget about it. Let's go to the movies. It's all too crazy. When the bottom line is, it's all about you, and that's what you need to look at. Lorenzo, you seem a little traumatized in your own bedroom. No, Eric, I'm not traumatized at all. Maybe I'm a little sleep deprived. I'm actually quite happy and quite fantastic. And this is what I mean by judging too. People don't ask anymore. Like
That's the
Eric could have
problem.
said, Lorenzo, are you traumatized? What's going on? Like, it's a question. Like, and I find that too many people are judging on the outside what's going on, instead of asking serious questions or real questions with their fellow man and with their fellow lady and everyone else. And I find just asking and sitting and listening and seeing will help get over this trauma by being more, let's say, human and humane and empathic in the life that you're living moving forward.
Yeah, and results are a big thing, right? Like people don't look at results, and this is how conspiracy theories are a trap as well. Like if you're just into the theory and diving down each hole and each hole, Well, that's the trick, right? Because you're not looking in. You're spending all your life running around chasing things on the outside, a lot of which, are hard to even get a solid answer, true or false to, right? A lot of these things are. They're just sort of deep rabbit holes. But that's not to say if you enjoy that, like then go for it, right? But just make sure you're not just doing it to try and save the world at cost to saving yourself, because this is what they want you to do. They want you out there trying to change these systems that you can't. I mean, I'm just going to say it, you can't go and change the government. Like no one here can on their own go and change the government, collapse the tax system, change the law system, change all the chemicals in the food. Like, together with time, sure, that's possible. But as far as, having a crusade, it's much better to become the person you're meant to be. And then, as a benefit, you'll create things easier, because when you're running around trying to be something you're not, and you're on a quest and a vision, and you really, people do that, and they, a lot of the time, it's to hide a part of themselves, right? Or to put a mask on, pretend that there's something that they want to be without actually becoming that person. So, in this way, like, this is another way that conspiracy theories traumatize us, right? Is we spend our times going down these often dark rabbit holes, chasing things that we probably can't catch. And it's all, like I said, if it's fun, great. But if it's at expense to your mental health, to you focusing on yourself, to you achieving your goals, things like this, then, you might want to back off it. Because, it's a chant, right? In the alternative communities, turn off the TV, turn off the TV. Well, guys, the TV's gone. It's
A
now a
long time.
computer and a phone, right? It's so turn off the computer or the phone. Watch things you're interested in, that you want to learn. But I think we all need to detach a bit from running around in circles. Because just look at the last 5 years. Look at the information overload, and everyone's just looking here and looking there, and you don't even get time to sort of understand one story before another big story's happening. And that's what it is. It's distraction. So
Total
it's
distraction.
distracting you from being yourself, because you're so powerful. That's what they're afraid of.
So what's the opposite of trauma? Healing. So first off, let me apologize to you, Eric. I understand. You judged me, I judged back. No problem at your attempted humor. Like, in some ways, of course, being in my old childhood home with my parents is traumatizing. My mother's paralyzed. She's in a wheelchair. Nurses come over all day long. I don't even have to get into the details of how they have to look after, an 80-year-old who can't move. And then my father, who's also in his 80s, almost 90 now, and losing his mind. And of course, it's a little traumatizing to see the truth of their life, as they love me, but their choices have made them into the type of people, jabbed and medicines and all this other garbage that they do all the time. But I've had to see through that to the love inside, to the love what's there, to the love that made me, and to understand myself. And this is what is happening and helping me to see through the trauma, to come back to who I am, to see what Campbell has just mentioned is it's up to us to make our life. But it's not enough, in my opinion, to say, I'm going to make my life now. I'm going to move forward. Everything's fantastic. I have to know myself. It's also to see how you've made your life horrible, how you've made your life not so interesting. Like my mother, who is literally, this is very interesting and something Campbell and I've talked about as a theory. She's mostly gone, right? When she talks, it almost doesn't make sense. Sometimes she gets lucid. I think she's getting close to the other side. And she every day says she loves me now. Every day she says she's happy before she goes back to mumbling, which is strange because she was a very angry lady for a long, long time. And even at one point when I was sitting with her, Campbell and I theorized that we choose our parents. My mother turned to me once and said, "You chose me." And I almost fell out of the chair, right? Because I think she's maybe seeing, yeah, I know, I think she's maybe seeing closer to the other side, or maybe, she's getting closer to her death. There's no doubt. And for me, that's allowing a lot of the theories I've had about energy and life and my own potential power to come to the forefront and allow me to be creative as I see, my Forever Free, as the event Campbell and I are doing in a few weeks now in Florida. We'll mention that a bit later, is coming in a way that's beyond guessing, beyond theory, but through an action that's very hard. Like I gave up my life to be here. I gave up everything comfortable to be sitting in a very uncomfortable position. So yes, Eric, in many ways, it has been traumatic. So you've been right. But that trauma, because I'm not taking it in as a bad thing or a good thing, but as what is so in my life, or what I sowed, SOWE, I guess, how you sow seeds and things grow, has allowed me to grow even more, and it
Yeah.
rhymes a bit, into the man I'm becoming, so that I can share this in our event and the videos and everything else, and just in my life and with Campbell and my friends and wife, etc., in ways that are beyond guessing for me, and that will allow some power to grow and become a better life as I would like to live it.
Yeah. And I mean, that's all we really want, right? That's all, that's all anyone really wants is a better life, right? Like to not have to worry so much and for all the crap, right? All the systemite stuff. And of course, you can run out and fight the system and do all these things, but and whichever way you want to do it is fine. But you can also just make a better life, right? Like money, we know money and we know, fiat currency and it's not gold backed and blah, 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 blah. But the reality is it's hard to live without it. So, it's not a bad thing. That's another trauma, right? Is a lot of, people in this, genre, in this group, in this community, they see money as a bad thing because they know the history behind it. They know it has no real value. They know it's a scam. That all this stuff, right? But what's the result of that? Like, are you living a better life? Are you happy? Can you do things? Because I mean, one true thing about money is when you've got it, you can help a lot more people, right? And this is the thing, like we've got to really evaluate the results, like, because we're here anyway. And my take on it is we may as well have fun. We may as well have a good time. We're here anyway, right? So, whatever it is you want, you should go for it. But if you spend your time looking outside for problems, you're not going to be looking inside. And the downside to that is if your focus is problems, and when you look inside, you'll find more of them, right? Because we see what we want to see, right? The RAS, reticular activating system. And so, it's 2025, and guys, it's the 13th of March. All right. We are 2 weeks away from being a third of the way through this year. It was just Christmas yesterday, literally, right? Like, how fast is time going? So even more so this year, we need to focus on what we want and stop running around in circles and pointing at this and did you hear that? And oh my God, this was so bad and blah, 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 blah. Because it doesn't matter. Like Lorenzo said, it doesn't matter. It's got no effect on your life at all unless you let it by giving it your
Yeah.
attention. So, what is it that you want? Like I believe that things are changing faster because, energy is rising, but I think that means we can manifest things faster if we're focused. And we're focused all the time, right? So if we're focused on bad stuff, we're probably going to manifest that faster. But it's time to get stuff, get it all together. I think it's a 2025, man. It's number 9, right? The year of completion, all this stuff. So, if you want to, step forward and take 2025 by the horns and you happen to be in America, then we are doing a show. Hippie did post the link. It's in the description below. And it is, as I look at my board,
April 5, 6, and 7th in Tallahassee, outside Mariana.
5,
You know, we
there you
5 and
go.
6, and then there's a
Yeah.
powering through the old world walk on the 7th. And I just want to say in this small pause,
I've got the 4th,
Melissa,
5th, and 6th.
yeah, 5, 6, and 7th. Melissa, there's no wasted years, and there is a lot of pain. Like you say, wasted years. Depends what you do with what's happened. If you take the pain and you watch what you've gone through and you see it and you incorporate it into your life, then you've wasted nothing. There's a Japanese saying motaina, which means waste, and that's kind of why I'm here. I sat back and said, I don't want to waste anything I've done. I don't want to waste my hard times. I don't want to waste my good times. I don't want to waste the work I've done. I don't want to waste the art I've done. But in order for that to be true for me, you have to accept all the pain and suffering that you've created, allowed, lived through. And you can take that, harshness and transformation. The hard path is the easy path, and the easy path is the hard path. So you can take all of that and allow it to not be a waste for you by seeing how that can help you grow from here.
I mean, and you can also go inside and find out that you're perfect as you are, and you're an awesome person, and love yourself, and then you're not going to want to change anything. There is nothing wasted, right? Everything we do makes us who we are. So, if you took away those wasted years, you wouldn't be you anymore.
Mm,
And I think this is a thing with society and with putting our focus outside of us. We have all these expectations. We have all these, marks of success. What is success? Well, the outside world shows you what success is, right? It's having, the beautiful partner and the big house and the car and the money you can flash around and the gold chains and whatever else. But is that success? Like, isn't success just doing what you love and being happy? And this is the thing. Like, what are we going to rate ourselves by? Are we going to rate ourselves by outside people that we don't know? And most of the time, we don't even know are real, because most of the time they're these movie stars and singers and all this kind of stuff that we're trying to measure ourselves against. If you measure yourself against yourself, then
mm,
it's a much better problem, right? And you're going to be moving forward most of the time, because if you're looking at yourself, you will see that you can always make a little change and then another little change. And you do that enough times, and you realize you made big changes and your whole life's changed. Right? You can't do that if you're focusing on outside or focusing on what other people have achieved, because that's their life. It's not you. There's a saying, right? It's none of your business, and it really isn't. You can say, "Wow, they're cool. That's a cool car. I'd like to own one of them." But as far as wanting to be someone else and dress like them, and they did this, so I'm going to do that. That's not your journey, and you're never going to know your journey or how to get to the end point, right, to the treasure chest, unless you learn who you are and you go inside and you make that map, right? Make your own treasure map, right? Because to some people, success is, having a farm, right, and raising food and being happy and having a big family. To other people, it's, having the car and the house. To other people, it's teaching children. To other people, it's healing people. Like, success is whatever you define it as, but it has to come from within. If we're competing with the outside, like, we're playing a losing game, man.
yeah, and Luke, there's nothing that's been done upon us, in my opinion, mud flood or reset. I mean, I've been here a long time. Maybe I'm older than you. No one's mud flooded me. No one's reset me. I've reset myself. I've seen them say there's a reset coming, or whatever. And every time they decide to reset, or they decide that they say their reset is a certain way. Let's put it that way. But I choose how my reset goes. Okay, going to reset work, going to reset jobs. Campbell's mentioned it too. Around 2020, they're going to change everything and take you off the money and change the jobs and collapse this. You got to go. Good. I don't like my job. I didn't like my old life. I didn't like where I was living. I didn't like all of these things. So you take the challenges, and if you have a whole bunch of lemons, you make lemonade. All these old sayings, and turn the lemons into lemonade and see where that takes you. But it's just in looking at things that's been done upon you. Nothing's been done upon anybody. There's nobody doing anything to anybody, in my opinion. Everything is an illusion from the TV. Who knows about the wars? Who knows what's going on? Who knows if anything is true or not? I've heard the opposite of everything that's been said, positive, as far as it's true. Someone else will say it's not true. And it doesn't matter. It's part of conspiracy theory trauma. As long as you're fighting it, you're in a traumatic lifestyle, and like Campbell said, when your RAZ, or reticular activating system, is messed up or effed, so are you. But if you calm it down and you relax yourself, it gives you the opportunity to see new potential, and then you got to go for it. It's not enough to talk about it. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. You can't talk about it. You can't write it down. It's good to blog about it and write about it and keep it in your scrapbook. But unless you literally take a chance that you're going to die, because something old has to die before something new can be born. And that's part of what our matrix manipulation manual, which, by the way, a little plug here, is what we're going to be developing with everyone during our event, their own personal matrix manipulation manual, which everyone needs because everyone's different. But through the trauma, you can be born into something new, but you literally have to let go of the old, or else if you're holding it, you can't grab something new. That's pretty much the way reality works.
Yeah, and don't take on trauma that's not yours.
Mm.
I mean, this is another thing I see a lot of. I hear it from people, and they tell me these big stories of how they're traumatized and that, and then they get to the end and I realize it didn't even happen to them.
Yeah.
And I'm serious. I hear this a lot. Oh, my friends, whatever did this, or my mother, or I hear it all the time. People going out and collecting trauma. Oh my God, this is, why I can't do something. I guess, that might be it. Maybe they're collecting excuses. I don't know. But what I do know is that your own trauma is bad enough. Don't take on some trauma that's not even yours.
Mm.
Like, for instance, the mud flood. That didn't happen to us. The wars, no one here was probably alive in the wars. If they were, they would have been a baby. Like most of this stuff hasn't happened to us. The famines in Africa didn't happen to us. A lot of this stuff hasn't happened to us. So don't take it on as trauma. That's another one of the scams, right? They want to. This is programming. This is programming. And a thought that I had when I was probably, I don't know, late teens is, I was, contemplating as I do, and I realized that I can't even prove that I wasn't created 5 minutes ago with all of my memories implanted. I can't prove that, and neither can you.
No.
So we can't
Lu-
prove that any of this crap that we worry about is even happened. We can't prove it.
no, we can't.
So
And it's
why give it all this attention and bring it up and focus? That's what we're supposed to do to goals, not to trauma.
I like that, Kelly, that you killed the old man to show up at the gym. That's how I feel. I've had to kill my old man to show up at my life. And the fact that most people are retiring, my wife said, at my age, but I'm starting the next 30 years of work. And that's just the way it is. And I'm feeling, super healthy and super strong and super fantastic. And I've had to move through all that. And as far as louche merchants, Kathy, yes, that is what they're, looking to buy, but you don't have to sell it to them. That's the difference. They can't take it from you. They do eat louche, in my opinion. The monsters do eat your energy. And that's what the other side of this conspiracy theory trauma is. They try and traumatize you. I think that's their food. That would be my guess. And they can't, steal it. I think they can only offer to buy, and most people offer to sell because this world is an offer and an acceptance. That's why the contract, all these other things. So if they offer to buy it from you, and then they give you trauma as a means to sell it to them, which is what I feel how they do this trick, this conspiracy trick. You don't have to buy it. You can go on and do something else with your energy. You don't have to sell your louche to anybody. I suggest keep it. To turn your louche into love, and grow from there. That would be my suggestion.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think they like the lower vibrations, right? They're bottom feeders. They don't want to feed off love. Clearly, that they're not into that. So don't give it to them. But everything, yeah, like the system, not everything as well, but the system, right? The overlay that these beings, whatever they are, the control system they've put there, that whole system is about compliance. Everything, the whole legal system, and all of it, right? And people are going to say, "Oh, but I didn't, agree to my birth certificate." No, but now you have information of what's going on, and you can stand on your own 2 feet and say that you're not a piece of paper. You know, like this is the thing. It's all compliance. If you get a fine from the government, it's your decision if you pay it or not. It doesn't matter how much peer pressure that is there by the government and other people. You still have a choice, like always. So I think that everything we have to agree to. So, this is a good way out to stop agreeing. Start agreeing with yourself. Start agreeing with things that head you towards the life you want to live. Right? Stop agreeing with things that you don't like, that piss you off. Right? Try different things. The world's, it can be a game, right? And it is, right? The game of life. The only game where the rules of the game are to learn what the rules are. But we're intelligent people, right? And that's what it is. We can work this stuff out and we can see through and we can see what's crap and we can do something about it, in our own personal lives. We don't have to go out and save everyone else and tell them how evil everything is. It's much better to work it out and then offer solutions.
Yeah.
How about that one?
And,
How would
and
that change the energy?
and none of it's real or not. I mean, if you go to pay a fine or you don't pay a fine, it really depends on the intent. of what's behind your actions, right?
Well,
If you're
there's
pay,
that too. Yes.
yeah, I mean, if you're paying a fine because it's the easiest way out of a trap, who cares, right? Or if you're paying a speeding ticket, or I have to pay for my passport. I don't want to, but it doesn't matter, right? It's simply a matter of how do you move purposely through this world without being an idiot, without being a fool, without getting stuck in the system. I mean, as Campbell said before, my wife and I traveled to Canada. We got all kinds of fear in the Japanese airport. They're not letting people in. Trump is closing the borders. Your wife is Japanese. 4 or 5 Japanese people have been turned back. Fear, 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 fear. We came into Canada. The guy looked at me. What are you doing? Visiting your father. Okay. Like literally, there wasn't 1 second at the border of fear for us to go in and travel and to be here. None. Except at the airport before we left, people go, "Are you afraid? Are you afraid? Are you afraid?" And we went, and we went, "No." And then that was our reality, right? We had an easy trip into Canada. Here I am. So if someone tells you you can't do something, or you can do something, or you should, it's really up to you to decide how to go through that challenge. Maybe it's pay the fine. Maybe it's be sneaky. Maybe it's put on women's clothes if you're a man and sneak in as a lady to the ladies' bathroom and go out there. It doesn't matter. It's up to your creative attention and your creative ability. That's why it's called your personal matrix manipulation manual, and that you've got to figure out how to manipulate the matrix towards the ends that you desire.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's another big thing is that's related to this conspiracy theory trauma is, we're all looking for answers, right? Ultimately, we're looking for answers. And then those answers are, it's generally, how do I make my life better, or why does my life suck, right? That's pretty much the two questions, right? So we can spend our time proving that the world sucks, right? Or we can
Oh
spend
yeah.
our time, you know, inside, right? Wondering why we're not where we want to be, and finding solutions for that. So, it's all ultimately a game. It's all what you want it. Like, you actually make the rules. That's that, that quote. The only game, life's the only game where the rules are to learn what the rules are. Yeah, well, they're inside you. That's the game, right? Learn the rules, and they're only the rules for you. I don't know how to fix any of you. I don't. I can tell you what I've done to help myself and to fix myself and to move forward and what works for me. And through that, hopefully you get some, ideas. But this is the thing. It's got to be your rules, your manual, right? Because everyone's different.
Mm,
Everyone's had different experiences. Everyone sees the world differently because they were raised differently, right? Like
mm,
even twins, identical twins, by the time they're 20, they've got different personalities, probably much younger, right? So we're all different. So this is the thing. We need to, this is why the answers are inside, and that's whatever you want it to be. Sitting and meditating, writing, right? Just pondering, what do you want? But spend time, what do you want? What do you love to do? And then once you focus on that, you don't even really need to go into how do I get it. You've just got to take action on what do I want. When things pop up that feel good, you move in that direction. But you definitely have to take action. This whole theory of sitting on the couch and
mm.
hoping $1 million and gold bars turns up at your door, that's a joke. Because if that worked, there'd be people everywhere with gold bars going, oh my God, they just turned up in my doorway, right? So this is another distraction to take you off the path. Look, I've got the answers for you. Look outside of yourself. Here you go. But the answers for you are in you. But the thing that helps is discussion, right? Talking about this thing, sharing ideas. This is how we move forward, right? And that's exactly what we're doing, right? We're going to get some people together. We're going to share some ideas, and we're going to all make our own exit the matrix manuals, right? And start moving towards doing that. And that doesn't mean that we're going to say fight the system. You need to tear this down. No, you just need to make a new beginning. Focus on what you want and walk in a different direction. That's it. And be brave and trust. Right? You definitely need to learn to trust. Right? Trust something bigger than you, like Lorenzo's done. Right? Moved his whole life, sold everything he owns, moved across the
Everything.
world to his parents' house, right, with no plans of where he's going afterwards, right? He's got a bedroom, his old bedroom, for a few weeks, and then he's off, right? But but it's going to work out fine because he's taking the action. He knows what he wants, and he's doing it. And
Yeah,
you'll hear about what happens to him. I mean,
you will. Yeah,
I've done the same thing.
happy to keep sharing. I mean, if things aren't working, I suggest look at yourself first. Most people look outside. So if something in your life isn't the way you like it, a good place to start is just to understand yourself, to look at yourself, and maybe to be honest with how you got there. A lot of the things Campbell and I are going to be sharing could be very magic related too. I'll touch base on that a little bit. My time is very different since I've been here. Campbell's talked about it speeding up, myself as well, but maybe you get faster. You can manipulate time, I found. You can manipulate your dreams, I found. You can manipulate yourself endlessly. But everyone wants to try and manipulate the outside world, right? They should change the rules. They should change the money. The gold bar should show up at my feet, as Campbell said, or they have to change. But the opposite is probably where all our power lies, is you can manipulate yourself endlessly, but you can manipulate yourself in such a way as that you're moving towards a higher vision, a powerful version of yourself. But in order to do that, you have to admit how you've been wrong. You have to admit how it's all your fault. You have to admit the mistakes you've made. You have to admit why your life sucks. And if there's ever any doubt as to the reasons, as Campbell had said before, I suggest pointing at yourself, even if stop making excuses, Hippie Shake said, it's true, and see, well, the ways through the challenges instead of blaming anybody or anything or anyone or any age, monetary situation, health, sex, anything at all. If you're blaming, you're losing the game, in my opinion.
Yeah, the world's a mirror, right? It really is. It's just going to reflect back to you what you're putting out. So the power is within. Change what you're putting out, and you'll change everything, right? Change what you think. That'll change what you do, your actions, and that will change your results. I mean, that's the 3-step process to changing your life, right there. It's really that simple. I'm not saying it's easy, but it's a simple process, right? Getting there is a different story, right? Getting over ourselves, right? And all this crap and all this programming, that's the game, right? I've said it before. The statue's not finished when there's nothing more to add. The statue is finished when there's nothing more to take away. Right? This is a game of getting all these belief systems and all these opinions off and finding who we are and focusing in and doing something with that, taking action and getting over our conspiracy theorist trauma, right? And definitely don't take on other people's trauma. And that includes past people's trauma. Oh my God, it was so horrible how they, burned all the cities and that. Well, could just be a story, guys. Could just be a story.
Yeah.
You may only be 10 minutes old, right? With all your memories implanted. But whatever it is, you're here. You're experiencing life, and you're the only one you can change. Because if it's not your fault, that means you are stuck. Because it's the world's fault, and you cannot go out and change everyone in the world. If the world needs to change for your life to change, you're stuck. End of game. But if everything's your fault and only you need to change for the whole world to change, well, guess what? You're now the most powerful person in the room, in the world, right? You're in complete control. You're the creator. So, it's all a choice. It's all a choice.
And you
But
never
as
know.
we said, you go.
Yeah, and you never know where new information is going to come from. I always thought my father was a weak man. He's 88 now. It took him 88 years to tell me the first 6 years of his life in Canada he spoke Russian. I didn't even know he spoke Russian. He was always getting into fights at school. He was always, beating up the tough guys so he felt safe. He never told me that. Never. Right? It's so weird because I always thought he was a weak, smaller guy, too quiet. And then I come here and I hear my father was a tough guy when he was young and greased back his hair and drove cars and stole oil from old cars when he was working in the gas station to fill up new cars to drive his parents, and to sneak off with my mother. And like, these are stories I wouldn't have heard. And my father could be dead any minute because he's not so healthy either if I hadn't taken the chance to be here, to come live in this house. And like I said, it's been a nightmare. Oh my goodness, it hasn't been easy. For the last little while, I'm staying in a kind of a dusty old basement that hasn't been probably swept in 40 years. I had to clean it myself when I came here. But the reason I'm mentioning that is not to feel bad or sorry for myself, but to see through this stress and exercise and doing it, I've learned a whole bunch about who I am by going, wow, my father is like this. He never told me. His life was like that. He never told me. He told me stories about how he talked to my grandfather 5 minutes before my grandfather went for a swim, and he didn't know why he felt like calling him. Now, my grandfather had a heart attack and died in a pool 10 minutes later. Right? The next call he got, he was dead. So the last second, that's the other reason to change, is the story is you never know when things are at its last moment for you, for a relationship, for somebody, for something. My father shared this story with me yesterday, I think. So these are all stories I never heard in the 88 years I've known him. Well, I haven't known him for 88 years, but hidden in his 88 years of life, which is interesting. And they're all informing me now how to move forward and not take anything for granted and to grab what I need to grab about life. Like everything Campbell said is very, very true. But how you get to that is up to you, right? How you get the determination and the willpower and the mettle, mettle, to stand up and put some straight in your spine from where you've been bent, and to change your distortions and clear your vision, is all in everyone's individual challenges in their life.
Yeah, man. As Rocky Balboa said, right? It's not how many times you can get hit; it's how many times you can keep getting up. And that's true, right? If you give up, you're done. If you see everything as a not as a problem, but as a challenge that's going to make you better, then you're playing a different game, right? If there were no mistakes and only mistakes, then you're playing a different game. It's really, if you can change the way you look at life, you'll change your life, right? Like it's really, again, right, that simple, not easy, but simple, right? So if you're into this and you want to make 2025 a different year, if you want to actually start doing something, because we all say this stuff for years, right? Decades before we get around to doing it. If this is your year and you're in the southern states or anywhere in America, or if you want to fly in from Australia, I don't know. Yes, you can come and join us. 3 days in Florida, near Tallahassee. Links below. We'd love to see you. And basically, it's going to be 3 days or 2.5 days talking about these topics, writing our own manuals to escape the matrix. But that's just the matrix in your mind. We're not going to tell you what tools to get and to go up to the firmament and knock a hole in it and climb out. It's how do you get rid of the programming and start living the life you want to live, start seeing the world you want to see, start only interacting with the people you want to interact with. How do we do this? How do we stop stressing about all these outside influences? Well, come and join us and we will be getting into all of that.
Yeah, and if you don't want to come, buy a ticket for a friend. Send someone you love to see us. It's all fantastic. April 5th and 6th. There's going to be a 7th, which we're going to do a walk powering through the old world. We'd be delighted to share more stories face to face. I'm going to go into great detail about the traumas I faced on this trip over the last few weeks, and not to aggrandize anything I've done, but simply to share through my own challenges how anybody can wipe the crap off and take a new view by
Yeah.
understanding who they are, yeah, where they came from, and why they're there. Campbell and I don't make a lot of money doing this. We barely get to we barely get to pull these events off. It's like only through the magic of spirit that Campbell's even being allowed to fly there from someone who's helping him with the ticket because she wanted to see him. It seems like that's happening, and it had nothing to do but a sharing of love and a sharing of power. And this particular lady is paying above and beyond what we're charging just because she wants to help the event become real. So if there's something you would like to do or you would like to make it real, send us an email if you can't make it or you have some other questions or some other ways that you can participate. We're not stuck in the ways of anything, monetary or otherwise. We are simply looking to help a community grow by helping ourselves grow and by helping you see how you can become a better person.
Yeah, totally. You'll find, I saw someone ask, does Lorenzo have a channel? Yes. Link will be below in the description, as will our email, which Lorenzo will respond to. So any questions you've got, if you want to talk, about the event or anything, email him. And oh my gosh, Melissa
Thanks you.
T, thank you so much. That's much appreciated. And this is the thing, like, it doesn't have to be money that you put out, right? Like, if you've got any other ways you want to get involved in life, just do it. If you need money, it generally turns up when you decide you're doing it. You've probably all heard my story, and I'm looking forward to hearing Lorenzo's. I haven't heard lots of what's going on, but I pretty much did the same thing, right? I moved away from my family, my home, ended up living in a tent for like 4 or 5 months. Then I upgraded to a dome, with no power or plumbing, right? But this is the thing: life's an adventure, life's fun. Because of that, I've been to 10 countries in the last 12 months, met amazing people, done all this stuff, right? And didn't pay for any of it. I didn't need to save the money first and plan it. I just said, this is what's happening. And the universe said, I think he's serious. We better give it to him. And I went, yes, I am. Thank you very much. And that's kind of, again, right, the 3-step process. This is the thing. So, we're not just, bagging on. Like, we're our own experiments. We're trying this stuff out, and that's what we want to share with you guys is how we've done these things and how we're going to go forward and do more things, right? And how you can do the same.
I love I love North Carolina, Melissa. I mean, I don't even have a ticket out of Florida yet. I got enough money to get a ticket in. I don't have a ticket out yet, and this is how we're trusting the process. I go, well, I don't need that ticket out for another couple of weeks. So I'm going to keep moving forward, even though my head keeps telling me to cancel or don't do it or you shouldn't do it. Doesn't matter. I'm going to go in. I'm going to see if I get stuck in Florida. It's a nice place to be stuck. That's how you have to look at it, right? It's like, I'll take the next step. I'll be there. Could I die? Of course. Like my father shared with me, anybody could die at any moment. Everyone's probably got a story similar to that or knows someone with a story similar to that. Here one moment, gone the next. So if somebody can, we've all life is like that. If you live 100 years, it's not that long. If you live 200 years, it's probably over in a blink. So take the steps you need to take. Be ready for the challenges. Doesn't matter if you fall down or hurt yourself or you're uncomfortable. Like I said, so much I'm going to share at this event of how uncomfortable living here has been. The noises I hear coming from upstairs, I won't even get into that because I'm being polite, from a paralyzed lady in a wheelchair, and how they've had to reorganize this entire house for that. The love my father's showing for my mother by doing everything to keep her out of the crazy home or the home for the aged because he doesn't want her to go there, even though, like I said, he's in his late 80s and kind of sinking a bit quick as a man. But I'll tell you, he stayed strong because he's decided to move along and to do his life and to not sit back and do nothing. And for me, that's influencing me to see that I come from a strong father. I thought weak for so many years, and that's allowing me to change my perspective to become a stronger man, to share with all of you. And who knows, maybe I'll get my ticket out of there over the next day or so and go on to my next step and continue to share what we're sharing and allow us to do more of these. So thanks, Melissa. That is very helpful.
Yeah. Yeah, and North Carolina's not that far from Florida, Melissa. I've driven across the Smoky Mountains there. Nice little drive.
We'd love to see you there.
Come and see us. And anyone else, we'd love to see you all there. You'll find the links below, and like I said, links for Lorenzo's channel and an email if you've got any questions. Send them all through. And we're having a walk around on the 7th, and so that's like you can do that separately. It's a separate little event if you just want to come for a walk. We're going to check out some star forts and some old buildings. So we'd love to see you all there. So thank you all for joining us, guys. Check out the links below. We've also got a local site too, by the way. Links for that below as well. Come and join us there. Basically, that's a place where we can talk uncensored, create a bit more of a group, a bit more personal. So if that interests you, please check that out as well. And yes, we will be back on the next upload. So early next week, we should have something else out again. And stay awesome.
I love you all very much. Thanks for being here. I just dug this poster up 2 minutes ago. 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse. It's my apocalypse. Come join us. Let's see how your apocalypse can be fantastic and get reborn and reshaped. As long as you're breathing, doesn't matter how healthy or unhealthy you are, there's always a chance to change. And I feel strongly that you can make that change into anything you choose with nothing to lose, as long as you decide to be free.
Indeed. And thank you to everyone in chat. Thanks for the mods. Thanks, Hippie Shake, as usual, putting up all the links. Stay awesome, guys, and we'll talk to you on the next upload. Bye for now.